Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Happiness in Higher Ed. My guest today is Lianne Minemoto, and I'm going to read off our mission statement real quickly. So, in a world that can be engulfed in darkness, we must shine bright and lead the change for a better future. As we continue to shape and challenge emerging adults' minds, it is also our duty to reflect and remember what makes us happy and why we continue to do the work that we do. So, for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, you can tell that I'm in a different room. That is because I'm currently on vacation, and this current room that I'm in is actually from the first guest, Jeff's place. Um, so the background is a little different, but it is what it is. So without further ado, once again, this is Lianne Minemoto, and I am going to read off her bio real quickly. So Lianne's career at CSU Monterey Bay started in July 2000 when the university was just 6 years old. She started as an event coordinator for conference and event services, and her background had nothing to do with higher education, but more along the lines of event planning. While working at CSUMB, Lianne graduated from CSU East Bay in spring 2018 with a BS in hospitality and tourism. Shortly after, she was promoted to manager of conference and event services, overseeing the operations for the University Center, long bio, a 10,000 square foot event space, in addition to managing the summer conference program with student housing and residential life, which I am a product of, just saying. And I lost my, okay. As a manager, she also took on additional responsibilities that include coordinating logistics for all ceremonies on campus, which include commencement, new student convocation, and honors convocation. What she loves the most about her job are the relationships she's built, not just with colleagues, but with students who work at the front desk of the UC or the summer conference program, and those who she cross paths with by whatever means, what brings them together. She also has time to make connections and love that this has become an important part of her job. During her spare time, Lianne loves to read, bake, cook, travel, pre-pandemic, of course, but we are starting to travel a little bit more. And have been learning new languages via the Duolingo app and prep for post-pandemic travel. She really loves traveling and loves to learn so much about the different places without realizing that, oh, wow, I really messed this up. So you learn so much about a place without realizing you've learned something new. Her bucket list places are Turkey and Scotland. She also misses visiting museums, going to live concerts, theater, and professional hockey, football, and baseball games. So yes, without further ado, Lianne, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
Oh, thanks, John. No, but I'm really glad to do this with you and see you finally. It's
Yes.
been a while.
Mhm.
And, you're one of those relationships that I get to have, that I get to keep. And that's all comes from, you being a student that worked the summer conference program.
Yes, yes. And it's been, I think this is 3 years actually, that
Okay.
yeah, 3 years
That's it.
since I've worked. Yeah, no, I think it's been 3 years. So
Oh, I
um,
feel like it's been longer. The pandemic feels like 3 years.
I would very much agree. I would very much agree. They say it's 15 months, but honestly, I think we're pushing, like you said, 3, 4 years.
Yeah,
So,
easily, easily.
but yeah, so without further ado, I'm just gonna start rolling with the questions if that's okay with
Yeah,
you. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
great.
So question number one is, what was the reason you started to pursue a career in higher education? I know that you had said in your bio that it wasn't the path, but you work in higher education. So can you talk a little
Right.
bit about
Yeah, it was very unintentional to be in higher ed. It was, hey, Fort Ord's closing and we're going to get a university out of it. So maybe I should get a job there. That sounds kind of fun. But I tried to get a job, honestly, when it first opened and just didn't really have any luck. You kind of had to be a temp in order to get full-time jobs there. So I was doing other things that I liked. And so it wasn't really that much of a goal. And then I had a friend who actually was the first manager of conference and event services. And she contacted me when she had a couple of holes to fill and said, you really ought to think about coming out here. You would be so good at this job. Come see, if you apply so we can interview you. Let's see what's going on. So I applied. First time I'd ever been out in Fort Ord, to be honest, was to go to the university and actually interview.
that?
Because growing up here, we didn't go to Fort Ord for anything. It was Army base. Why did I go to an Army base? So anyways, it was getting the job. And then even then, once I was working in higher ed, I didn't didn't really know what that meant, right? Because I was just doing events. Granted, I was doing events on the academic side of things. I was, doing extra events for lectures and classes and so forth. But it was still an event.
Hmm.
And then I just started to get more involved, I think, across campus, where I would attend student events, or if I wasn't planning those events, I would attend them. And I got to, I got put on search committees, and I started to get to know everybody across campus. And then it just kind of morphed into, wow, I really love it here. This
Hmm.
is really great. And I understood kind of what higher education meant, which is what sort of pushed me back into going back to school. I was definitely not your regular student. I did my program all online, and was pretty much did it because I was in higher ed. So, and I kind of understood what it meant to have that college education.
Hmm.
So boom, later in life, I decided to go back to school and got my bachelor's, and then here I am. I'm in a master's program now.
Hmm.
So that's kind of interesting and been kind of fun. And I don't know, it's higher education. People don't understand what that means. Like, I don't, does your family really understand what you do?
Um, to a certain extent. I mean, now that I've been doing it for, over 2 years now, and I think that I think it, I can relate to you in a sense that like working as a health promotion specialist, that it has that, like you can get a master's in public health and work at an institution, but not necessarily have that like higher education background that
Mm-hmm.
that you're talking about. So I do get that, but like yeah, my family is very much so. If I didn't if I hadn't been doing it for so long, like the first time that I had done it, yes, it would still be a conversation of like, I do this every time, but like not my family per se, but a lot of like my friends and like extended family, like they're kind of like, that's cool. you know,
Yeah,
it's just different,
exactly.
and like the theory
Right.
behind it and all that fun stuff. So it's just a different
Mm-hmm.
concept to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm. But okay, so then moving on to question number two. So, what makes you happy? And one thing from higher ed, and then one thing about like in your personal life.
Um, I think that I have one thing that it's in both arenas because of my event planning, but I love bringing people together.
Hmm.
I'm that person that brings people together, and I'm bossy. So those two just kind of, everybody has to listen to me. They don't have a choice.
Hmm.
So to do that for a career as well as personally, I am the person that has to get our family together for the holidays. I am the person who says, okay, for Christmas, we're going to have this dish, and what does everybody want to make? And I'm the one that has to kind of coordinate all that, right? So
Hmm.
that's a personal type thing. And I'm the one who gets my friends together. I'm the one who says, hey, let's go to dinner, everybody. Let's celebrate so and so's birthday. That's coming up next week, right? I'm that
Hmm.
person on a personal level. So in my workplace, it same thing. I'm the one who plans the event. So hey, come and join us. And I bring people together. And it's very satisfying, I think, in that respect, to see what that does. Just hosting an event in my building. It's like, look at the people who came. Now they've been up to the university center. If I get to talk to some of the students, I even will say to them, hey, I've got jobs at that front desk. This is what you would do. You'd get to be here during the event. You're going to help oversee things. If they need extra chairs, we're going to get chairs in the room, or, here's what we do. And
Hmm.
and again, it's just making connections, right? And
Hmm.
bringing everybody together. And so I think that's just what makes me happy. So it works for me both personally and professionally.
Got you. And honestly, going back to when you supervised me, I
Mm-hmm.
would not say, and I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself here. I will not say that you were very bossy. I think it was more of like you were very much so. This is what has to get done, and you don't have a lot of leeway. So it kind of I could see that being it, but I think that you were also very much so like you could talk outside of work, like you could be on the job but you could talk about like other things. Like I remember I'm assuming we probably talked about me going to grad school a handful of times as I was right before I was leaving. So it was like that mixture of like the fun as well as the working side of it. So
Mm-hmm.
that was one thing that I would not say that you were bossy. It could be seen that way, but I would not say that.
Well, that's
um
good.
and and I do have a question for you. So I know
Yeah.
that when you plan events, there's a lot of logistical things behind it. So with your friends, is it as logistical, or is it kind of like you get to be a little bit more lax in that category? I know this is a very strange question, but I'm
No,
curious.
probably a little bit more lax, but at the same time, I might be the one who has to say, okay, if so and so's coming from that direction, you guys could carpool together, right? Or it makes sense. Or, we're going to do this first and then we're going to meet up with more people to do this. So maybe I am more that logistical person regardless
Hmm.
of everything. I mean, I definitely figure out how much time it's going to take me to get from place to place because I don't want to be late. I might have to be the first one there anyways because maybe I'm the host in a sense.
That's
So,
true.
I am well aware of those logistical things. I'm very logical.
Okay.
I think that's where some of that comes in. So if it's logical, I'm all over it. If I can't be reasoned, then I kind of just go, okay, I'm not going to do that, right? And I'll move on. I don't have
Got
time
you.
for that.
That makes total sense. And like especially
Yeah,
like when you're saying like when you go by the tea, like if you have to overthink it, you're just like, nope,
yeah,
we're not doing it. It's
yeah.
done.
Nope.
Like,
Yep.
got
Yes.
you. Okay. So then what keeps you resilient in the face of some of the challenges that you faced, like especially like in the pandemic, like budget cuts, stress of the pandemic, etc.
Um, I think I would say that you just have to, as a planner, I like to control things. I mean, that's
Hmm.
why I am a control freak to a certain extent. But I've learned that I can't control on everything. I can control me, my emotions, my actions, my responses. So that's what I control, right? So I think during the pandemic, even more so, I've learned that um, I have to do things sometimes for me and I can't care about what other people are worried about because I've got to just do me.
Hmm.
And that's become even more apparent, I think, during the pandemic.
Hmm.
Um, I've also, I think, um, done a lot of shopping of random things during the pandemic.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure others have too. I have a friend who likes to say that she does pandemic shopping, she purchasing and everything, and I laugh because her big thing was she went to take her old car to just get an oil change, and she bought a new car. And I'm like, okay, I haven't done that. I haven't gone out and just bought a new car. I've bought a jump rope that I
Okay.
think is really hysterical, but I use it and it's great. I've bought, just funny things. There's funny things I go, man, that was a pandemic purchase. It totally was. But if it keeps you happy and it keeps you going, great. That's
Mhm.
what it's all about, right? It's like a survival mode thing. But I would have to say you've to also learn to do things without apologizing for them.
Mhm.
I think I'm really good at that. People love the emails I send when I have to say no because it's not super long, but they're not just no and you're done. I have a way of telling somebody no and giving them the reason why, but I end with good luck in your search, meaning don't contact me again. I'm written you off. You're done. I said no. Good luck in your search. Hope you find what you're looking for. Don't contact me. Um, so you just again, it's just I'm not going to apologize for not being able to help you. I want to help you, but my hands are tied, or I can't do it, or we're not going to let you park 1,000 cars in our parking lot the day we have move in. You can't we can't do that. Sorry, you're going to find some other way to accomplish what you're accomplishing. But so it's just learning to not apologize for things that it's your job and you say no and you move on. And so yeah, I think some of it is just putting your head down sometimes and doing your job,
Mhm.
um, and not feeling bad for those kinds of situations because it's your job. It's budget cuts are not fun. Um, Laying people off is not fun. Not that I've had to do that. I've had to fire a couple of students before, but we talk about why you're not working out and why why
Mhm.
you're moving on. Why I'm letting you move on. And it's just part of the of being a manager. It's part of the job, and you just kind of do it and have to move on.
Got you. Not dwelling on all those
Yeah.
things that have happened. And
Hmm.
honestly, I would very much so agree. The pandemic purchases have somewhat been out there, and I have not heard anyone that I know of that has gone to get an oil change and got a new
Yeah.
car. But it's one of those things that you sit there and you're like, hmm, I'll add it to the list, like, um, but there
Yeah.
have been things that I think, spending a lot more time like on social media or like hearing about what other people are doing for fun, because, for a solid minute, you couldn't really do a whole lot, probably about a
Right.
month or two, so someone is like, oh yeah, I just bought this amazing new jump rope. And you're like, well, a lot of free time, I've always thought about, jumping, but here we are. So I get that. I definitely get
Yeah.
that.
It, it's
But
it's been interesting. I've saved a ton of money though, because I'm not traveling, I'm not eating out, so instead I just buy jump ropes and odd things. But yeah, I haven't bought a car yet. I'm
got
good
you.
there.
And I thought that you bought a car in like the summer of like 2018, correct? Like
Yes, yes, I did. 2018, I did buy my car, and then it was so funny. The first year I put 12,000 miles on it or so, and then pandemic year, I think I put like 500 miles on my poor car in a whole year, because we didn't go anywhere. I wasn't going to work. I was
yeah,
not going anywhere. I
that's
might have
true.
gone grocery shopping, maybe once a week and put round trip 10 miles on my car. Yeah, it was pretty sad. I haven't changed my oil since 2019, end of 2019, probably. Yeah,
No, I mean, that makes sense though. It very much so makes sense.
yeah.
But so then, what are some of the ways that you practice self-care to stay on your A game? Because I know that one, going back to the third question, like self-care was definitely challenged.
Yeah. I always have loved to bake and cook. And it's partially that's how you bring people together, right? When you cook,
Mhm.
you have people come over and you've got, you're helping people, you're bringing them all together. But during pandemic, I would bake or cook and have to take things to people. Or if I was doing a trip out somewhere, it was like, okay, I baked cookies. I'm going to go stop at these following people's houses and just drop things off. So I still would bake and cook. I got some watercolors at one point and started making my own greeting cards.
Okay.
Just doing watercolor and cutting them out into shapes and gluing them onto paper and sending cards to people. I
Hmm.
kept in touch with so many more people who, on Instagram or Facebook friends, and I would just be like, hey, I'm sending out cards. Who wants one? And so I would order stamps through stamps.com or whatever and get my stamps. And then people would send me addresses. And then that forced them to write me back. And I got some really neat notes from people. And to this point now, I still have people who just send me postcards or a letter once in a while just to check in. Even
Hmm.
though, again, we're friends on Facebook and we even have each other's, phone numbers, we could text each other. But it's been kind of fun to actually send mail to each other
Hmm.
and have a written letter. I think that's actually really fun. People have beautiful stationery. Some people started making their own cards like I did, but others just sent me postcards from their hometowns and things like that. So that was really actually pretty fun. I need to get back into that again because I stopped doing that after a while.
Hmm.
Because then I started to get busy at work. But
True.
when we were first during the pandemic, yeah, I started to paint so I could actually send cards to people, and that was kind of fun. Mostly though, I've been, dreaming about traveling. I go to sleep dreaming about travel. And I've been learning Italian on Duolingo. So my Italian's getting pretty good because like I will watch foreign films and I understand some of what they're saying. If they're
Hmm.
talking slowly, I still obviously use subtitles, but I can actually understand what they're talking about, which is
Wow.
really fantastic. So I recommend, any of those apps are probably really great and they'll help you learn the basics for sure. So I think I'm going to have to go to Italy,
Okay. You
which
have
is
to go to
not a bad,
Italy. I know, right?
yeah,
Like it's so terrible.
not a bad place to go. So I think it's just finding those little things that do make you happy.
Hmm.
And honestly, you know, um, just learning the Italian words and learning, certain things, and then seeing a video about, something in Rome and wanting to just go visit, and then maybe doing a little more research to figure out, ooh, I want to go there. I have a friend who's in Turkey right now. She's traveling and she keeps posting pictures, and I make comments like, "Oh my God, are you going to go see X, Y, or Z?" Because I've studied a lot about, going to Turkey. It's a
Hmm.
huge country and there's a lot to see, and there's so much history there. So it's been kind of just living vicariously through others too that maybe are traveling. But I will definitely have to get out and travel. I think that's really what uh, has been missing for me,
Hmm.
because it's also traveling means going to see friends or even family for that matter, and hanging out with them, whether it's 3 days or a week. It's making those connections and not having been able to see a lot of people. When the pandemic hit, I remember my last day of work was March 13th. I had been from January 4th to March 2nd. No, March 2nd. Yeah, March 2nd or so. I had traveled through LAX 6 times.
Wow.
I was going all over the place. I
Hmm.
went to Denver, I went to Chicago, and then I went to Las Vegas. That weekend, the last weekend in March or whatever, for Las Vegas was hysterical. It was the end of February, actually, into March 1st. I went to 2 concerts. I was all over the place, and I flew and didn't get sick, knock on wood. I mean, I'm a little
Hmm.
surprised I didn't have COVID early on or anything because I traveled everywhere. And I
Hmm.
wasn't wearing, you weren't wearing masks at the time.
True.
I did have wipes and I wiped down everything I touched on the plane and wiped down everything at the hotel room. But I was in Las Vegas. One of the concerts was in the MGM Garden Arena that, houses 25,000 people.
Hmm.
Yeah. I wouldn't even think about wanting to do that right now. I would go to an outdoor concert, not a problem. Outdoor concert, yeah, and I'd probably still wear a mask, to be honest with you. But yeah, 25,000 people inside an arena, yikes. Um, but I miss it, right? Those are the
Hmm.
things that I do miss, but I'm also a little weary of getting back into it too.
Yeah.
But those are the things that make me happy, right? Those are the
Hmm.
things that put a smile on my face because it does mean I'm going to meet friends or family, and those are the kinds of things that I've missed a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but work. I'm looking forward to going back to work in person, and then I'm not. I can't wait to get back, but at the same time, if not everyone's going to be back that I'm used to seeing, that might not be quite as fun. Meetings will still take place on Zoom. I might be in my office instead, but I'm not necessarily going to be sitting in a big room, at a conference table with people, which is the part that I like the most.
Hmm.
I think events are going to look different too. So, some of it's just, it's even once I go back, I think, I'm going to be very mindful of that self care part of things and not check email when I go home. Really try and limit it to not checking on weekends either, because it will get done during my time that I'm working. It will. If it doesn't, then there's something wrong with the overall picture of what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But I do think that you can get most of your work done. In events, I don't work 8 to 5 anyways. But I'm not about to check my email at 9 o'clock at night just to try and get ahead of something. Nah, that can wait.
True. I think that
And
we did learn some great things from this. Like
mhm,
you had talked about the hobbies and the just the way that we view like our own personal time.
mhm,
Because like I would also be very much so the person that would be like, I can just respond to this right now, or just doing it. It's only going to be half an hour. It's only a half an
yeah,
hour of my time. But like now, time is precious. And I
mhm,
think that it takes an experience to be like, all right, I'm going to start valuing things a little bit differently
yeah,
because, I didn't have it for this long. And now all of a sudden I get it back, and you are probably going to have living through other people through this time. And now being able to take that vacation to
yeah,
Turkey, you will
right.
probably hit everything that you need to and are going to have the best travel plan ever.
But I think I have to be flexible and patient too, right? Because not
Yes,
everything goes as planned.
that's
But yeah,
true.
I think we did. You're right. I think we did learn a lot of what's really important to us, maybe.
Hmm.
Um, if you didn't, then I think you need to think twice about what the pandemic did, to you or for you, because I think that it should have made you realize really what's important.
Yeah, because I think about like with you specifically talking about like the timepiece or like having your own personal time and like using that personal time, you know, instead of thinking, oh, I lost this 15 months of my life,
Mm,
like I also took a break and like breathed for, for some time for some individuals, this could have been the first time that they've taken a break, for 15 years,
yeah.
of where they got to like draw those hard line boundaries that were blurred from the way that we operated beforehand, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, like you had said, like if you learned a lot from this is going to be a good experience for you. Like, don't get me wrong, still
Hmm.
terrible, would not want it
Hmm.
to happen again. And it's also like, all right, I learned a lot from this, you know?
Hmm. And you
So,
survived it, right? You
yeah.
survived it. You figured things out. You still had a place to live. You still, had clothes on your back, food to eat. You were okay in the
Mhm.
end. And I
Gotcha.
think that's a really important thing for people to remember because, yeah, none of us want to do this again, but I think now we all know we can.
Hmm. And
So,
I think it also highlighted those inequalities, and I think that we were
mm,
very much so, like, for the individuals that didn't have the roof over their head or their
mhm,
clothes on their back, like it was one of those
yeah,
things where you thought a little bit more about, okay, I can't do the things that I normally couldn't do, but now there are other people that don't have a place to, like, quarantine by themselves or like be
mhm,
safe, like that whole like safety
yeah,
thing. And I think, yeah, it's just a different perspective.
yeah,
If you take yourself, but once again, like I know that we had talked about this before we started recording, but like if you took
yeah,
yourself out of your own shoes and like thought about other individuals with the pandemic,
mhm,
individuals that were like autoimmune or were at more risk, you were like, okay, I'm gonna wear the mask, I'm gonna social
yeah,
distance, thinking about things that you could do to not necessarily help yourself, but with helping other people, which in doing so would help you,
mhm,
so great lessons.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So you learned something when it wasn't really intentionally learning something. That's again my whole thing about traveling. When you travel, you go to these places and you learn all this history that
Mhm.
you didn't really intend to learn and you didn't really care when you were going, but wow, you just learned all this stuff, right?
True.
Um, I think that's what the pandemic did for us too. We were forced to have to, open our eyes to other things.
Mhm. True. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But so the final question that I have for you
Mhm.
is, what is one piece of advice you live by in your practice?
So most people who know me know that I'm a Dave Matthews fan. I do go to the Gorge up in Washington State every Labor Day because that's where they play for 3 nights. We camp out, go to all three concerts. Everyone always goes. Go to three concerts? I mean, seeing him once, isn't that enough? No, they play a different set every single night. Sometimes they don't even repeat songs. They've got such a big song catalog. But anyway, that's also part of the experience of just going to the Gorge if you've ever been to the Gorge. But um, he's really kind of a funny guy. I
Mhm.
think he's just super smart. And he's also a musician and artist. So putting those two together don't always mix real well, but he's a funny guy. And he turned 50 just a couple of years ago. He and I are the same age. We were born the same year. And he turned 50 and he was recorded saying that when he turned 50, there were just some things he didn't give a fuck about anymore. And then there were things that he really did give a fuck about. And it's so funny because when he said it, I was like, oh my God, he's brilliant, right? And he wasn't saying anything that others probably haven't said before, but it really does make you think about what's important in life um, to you, like for you. If you make a decision and somebody doesn't like it, who gives a fuck? You made the decision because it was right for you, or it was, it was the right thing at the time for you.
Mhm.
And so I think that helps you put, again, things into perspective, makes you think about yourself, not to be selfish by any means, but to just understand that it's all about you. It's in your head, right? Again, like I said before, I can control my own emotions, my reactions, and my actions.
Mhm.
Can't control other people. So I take that as sort of a similar thing that yeah, there's some things that you just don't care about after a while. They're just not important.
Mhm.
It's important to be happy and to enjoy life, whatever that means to you, right? Don't I try not to judge others. I'm a real bad judger. It's the Virgo in me. I judge. I admit it, but I've tried not to, right? Because I don't want people judging me.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but again, there's just certain things you just don't care about after a while. Okay,
Mhm.
judge me. It's fine. Guy on street can judge me. I'm never going to see him again.
True.
And the people who matter to me know me, and those are the people I care about, right? Not guy on street, so he can judge me. It's okay. And that's kind of to me what Dave meant about there's just some things you give a fuck about, and some things you just don't.
Yep. And
So
And I think that's such a valuable piece of advice to have, because I mean that even just highlighting the fact that I'm in Jeff's room right now, is that we've had these conversations before, is that like, like when things happen in your life, like if they matter to you, then they're that's what really matters. If they hold a lot of value in your memories, then they matter to you. And I think that you have to, if other people have some opinions about it, that's totally fine. It doesn't impact you. The only way that it impacts you is if you let it sit there, it impact you.
Right.
But if you're just
Hmm.
kind of like, thank you for saying that. Yes, I what I did was bad. I know this. I don't need to keep rehearing it. I made a decision
Hmm.
and I moved on, and I hope that you
Yep.
can move on. Or just thinking about, that's great that you feel that way. I am so sorry. And then you move on, and then you
Yep.
just like, it doesn't hold that much value in your mind. It doesn't hold space, and you're just kind of
Hmm.
like, you can move on with with your life.
Right. Don't wallow in it because it doesn't mean anything to you anymore. It might mean something to that person, but you can't wallow in everything. You do
True.
have to move on. Again, it's you, and it's the way it's affecting you, and you can spread joy and happiness and love, your own special way. You don't, um, you just can't always care what everybody else thinks.
Hmm.
That's the other part of it. You just really can't. You've got to do you. You do you.
Yep, you do you. And
Yeah.
life gives you so many opportunities, and I think that's the one thing that it's smart to just think about it that way.
Hmm.
Just it's not that you don't care, it's just that you care about the things
Yeah.
that you need to care about, and care,
Right.
like you said, less about the things that don't matter.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
yes, but no, I just want to thank you again for being here and for answering these questions. And thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was really great to get your email and asking me to do this because I feel like, we have a great relationship, and I will always be there for whatever you need from me. I'm a great reference. Use me for, references at any time. But it's again, you're one of those people that have passed through my doors that I really cherish, that we have this relationship still, right? It's been nice to have so many students, again, you included, that just I still get to see as professionals now. And who knows, maybe someday you're going to be a director somewhere and I'm going to be looking for a job that you'll give me, right?
No, that's very true. And I think that once you're out of that situation, not saying that it's a bad situation, because you
Yeah.
were an amazing supervisor. You and Josh, hands down, probably in my top. I'll just say that. I don't want to
Oh,
I don't want to
good.
hurt,
Thank you.
I don't want to be bad, I don't want to be mean to anyone else, but
Yeah.
I think that I just learned so much from you that I didn't necessarily, it wasn't at the forefront of my mind, but kind of like the logistical things of like the
Mhm.
conferences and like the summer. So when I had that opportunity to go to UMass Lowell, I was like, okay, so I did this at a smaller operation, but I have the framework to know how this works, and like logistically, and
Mhm.
just being there as kind of like, just sitting there and hearing the conversations that you and Josh had about how you were working with
Mhm.
different camps and different things like that, and like how it all plays out. I had the wherewithal and the that knowledge to be like, I know what I'm doing. I have a
Yeah.
better understanding of what I'm doing. Like you had taught me so much about that, and it was just overall still using and utilizing the things that you had taught me that summer, which I was like, at that moment I was like, I know a lot. But now I see, like the managerial pieces that you had talked about, and like
Mhm.
what those conversations look like. And so I appreciate that, and once again, thank you.
See, that's really great because you just worked there with us, and you were great because you were so responsible about things, but we didn't intentionally go out to teach you everything, right? You just soaked it all up too. So
Hmm.
it goes both ways, but it's really great to hear those kinds of things later on down the line that we impacted you, and even your career choices that you've made. It's kind of fun to know that I had a part in that. So thank you too.
Yeah. But so I just want to mention, before we sign off tonight. So the next guest for the podcast will be James Kimbrell. And don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube, as well as follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So Without further ado, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And once again, thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, John.